Dear friends and my dear students, welcome to the show. The topic of this lecture is rigid rotator problem and its solution in terms of spherical harmonics. Before getting in, let me describe what is a rigid rotator and why did this rigid rotator get a place in quantum mechanics. The answer for the first question is two spherical masses, whether identical or different, connected by a rigid wire such that the distance between the two masses is a constant, and this arrangement, which has a dumbbell structure, is able to rotate about any fixed axis. The axis may pass through the center of mass and perpendicular to the rigid wire. So this arrangement constitutes a rigid rotator. For the second question, again, this rigid rotator is a toy which resembles the structure of a diatomic molecule, which is used to understand the interaction between the radiation and the matter on the basis of rotational motion. With this small introduction, we write the Hamiltonian of the problem. So the Hamiltonian contains only the rotational kinetic energy part, since there is no potential energy for the system. So the rotational kinetic energy can be written as half I omega square, or it can also be written as L square by 2I, where L is the angular momentum and I is the moment of inertia. So in this case, L is an angular momentum operator. So this is the Hamiltonian. Now immediately we can write the Schrodinger equation as H psi is equal to L square by 2I into psi, which is equal to E into psi of R, where E is the eigenvalue of the problem. We know that from the basic physics, the angular momentum L is equal to R cross P, where R is the position vector and P is the linear momentum. In quantum mechanics, the operator P can be written as minus IH cross del. Therefore, we write L square as minus cross H square R cross del dot R cross del. So that takes the form L square is equal to minus cross H square into R square del square minus dou by dou R of R square dou by dou R. By looking at this L square equation, we can easily find that the problem has rotational symmetry because it contains only the scalar part of R, the position vectors, that is the magnitude of the position vector. Therefore, we can easily separate the variables if we choose the spherical polar coordinate system. So, writing L square in spherical polar coordinates, which takes the form given in equation 4. So in equation 4, we have applied the expression for del square in spherical polar coordinates. That is, we have written del square in terms of spherical polar coordinates. So after writing it, the new equation for L square takes the form given in equation 5. After simplification, the equation contains only theta and phi and the R component is absent. So that is the good news, because we don't need to worry about the radial part of the problem. So substituting equation 5 in the Schrodinger equation, which takes the form given in equation 6. So this is the form where psi of theta comma phi is the wave function of the rigid rotator and is same as the original wave function psi of vector r, but contains only theta and phi as variables. So now the wave function is a function of only two variables, theta and phi. To avoid confusion, so we can write the wave function as y of theta comma phi for our convenience. For the purpose of separating the differential equation in two variables, so we have to separate the two variables in order to find the solution. For that, we write the function psi or y of theta comma phi as theta of theta into phi of phi. So substituting this expression in equation 6, we get the equation given in 7a. So we divide the equation 7a by theta of theta into phi of phi, and by putting lambda is equal to 2i e by cross h square, we get the equation given in 8. So just mathematical manipulations only. So if we multiplying equation 8 throughout by sin square theta and we rearrange, we get finally the equation given in equation 10. So by looking at this, one can say On the left hand side, we have an expression only in theta variable, and on the right hand side, the expression is exclusively in the phi variable. So this is possible only when these two expressions are equal to a constant. We say the constant as m square. So we can easily separate by writing equation 10 in the form given in equation 11a, which is minus 1 divided by 5 into d square phi by d phi square is equal to m square. On the left hand side of equation 10, that is the theta part, can be written as sin theta by theta into d by d theta sin theta d theta by d theta plus lambda sin square theta, which is equal to m square. So 11a and 11b are the two separated equations which are going to be solved subject to the admissibility and boundary conditions. So these are the two equations in our hand now. So we have to look for solution. So now the solving of rigid rotator problem turns out to be just solving of equation 12a and equation 13 only. They have to be solved subject to the boundary and admissibility conditions. First, we take up the phi equation because it is simpler in structure. So we can easily write the solution of phi equation as phi of phi is equal to a e to the power plus or minus im phi. You can also write it as a e power plus im phi plus b e power minus im phi. Whichever way you want, you can write it, but we have to be very careful about the admissibility conditions and the boundary conditions. So here, so as the obtained solution should be single valued according to the admissibility conditions, that is, even after a rotation of 2 pi, the value of the function should be the same. So that restricts ourselves to have only the positive exponent. That means e power minus im phi is not allowed. So we write only the positive exponent, that is phi of phi is equal to a e power im phi, where a is the normalization constant whose value can be found out using the normalization condition of the phi equation, which takes this form. The azimuthal angle phi runs from 0 to 2 pi. Therefore, limit 0 to 2 pi e power minus im phi into e power im phi d phi multiplied with the a square has to be 1. That is a square into 2 pi. The value of the integral is 2 pi. Therefore, a square into 2 pi, which is equal to 1. Finally, we get the value of a as 1 by square root of 2 pi. And the solution for the phi equation can be written as phi of phi is equal to 1 by square root of 2 pi into e power im phi. Now, we are halfway through. Next, we are going for the solution of the theta equation. For that, we write sin theta d theta as d of cos theta. Applying this in equation 17, we get equation 18. So everything is in cos theta here. Now we define a new variable rho which is equal to cos theta such that we write the theta function. Theta of theta is equal to q of rho. So after substituting this, the equation 18 takes the form given in equation 19. Now the limits of rho lie between minus 1 and plus 1 because the limits of theta lie between 0 and pi. Now we assume the solution of equation 19 in the usual way, that is as a product of two functions such that the first function will take care of the boundary conditions, that is q of plus or minus 1 is equal to 0 as per the postulate of quantum mechanics, and the second one will be assumed to have a series solution. Therefore, we write q of rho is equal to 1 minus rho square to the power m by 2 into u of rho, in which 1 minus rho square will take care of the boundary conditions. That is, if you put rho is equal to 1, the first term is 0. Therefore, q of rho is 0 when we substitute rho is equal to plus or minus 1. The exponent mod m by 2 is for generality. The mod m by 2 factor introduced in the exponent in order to have a general solution. So now what we are going to do is we are going to first consider the special case, that is m is equal to 0, which means q of rho is equal to u of rho only. So this is the special case. Why we are considering m is equal to 0 is because of simplicity only. First we find the solution for the simplest case, then we will generalize the results for the general equation of theta. Substituting m is equal to 0 in equation 19, we get the equation in 21. Now, as we said previously, we are going to write the function u of rho in the form of an infinite series. That is, u of rho is equal to summation running from n is equal to 0 to infinity an rho n. So once we write the series, then our job is to substitute this series form in the equation 21. So we get these equations 23 and 23a. The final form of the 23a is written at the bottom. So from this we can generate recursion relations. Also from this equation we see that this equation is true if the coefficient of each power of rho is 0, because on the right hand side we have 0. Therefore it is possible only when the coefficients of each power of rho is 0. That is, if we take the case of the rho power 0 coefficient, we have 2a2 plus lambda a0, which is equal to 0. Similarly, rho 1 and rho 2 coefficient can be written like this. If we generalize this coefficient, the coefficient of rho power L as L plus 1 into L plus 2, A L plus 2 plus minus L into L plus 1 plus lambda into AL, which is equal to 0. So on the right hand side we have 0. So I am taking the second part of equation 24 to the right side, and after manipulation we get ratio AL plus 2 divided by AL, which is equal to minus L into L plus 1 plus lambda divided by L plus 1 into L plus. For any infinite series to converge, the condition is as L going to infinity, the ratio or the value of the ratio AL plus 2 by AL should be very, very small, or in other words, it should be infinitesimal. But if you look at our case, then as L goes to infinity, it is not so, because in the numerator we have a term minus L square, and in the denominator also we have a term L square. So the value of AL plus 2 by AL is non-zero, or it's not infinitesimal. Therefore, what one has to do is, in order to satisfy the boundary conditions, we terminate the infinite series given in equation 22 after some terms, say after L terms, for which the ratio AL plus 2 by AL is equal to 0. This gives us a condition on lambda, because the numerator of equation 25 should be 0. Therefore, we get lambda is equal to L into L plus 1. As lambda is directly related to the energy eigenvalue of the problem, we immediately write the energy eigenvalue of the rigid rotator as E is equal to L into L plus 1 into cross h square divided by 2y. Here one has to note that L is the power of the polynomial or order of the polynomial. It takes only integer values. If it is so, then one can say that E has certain allowed values only depending upon the value of L. So once we get lambda is equal to L into L plus 1, upon substituting in equation 21, we get the equation 27. So on seeing the equation 27, we understand that is the equation 27 is nothing but the famous Legendre differential equation, for which the Legendre polynomials, that is PL of rho, are the solutions. So we immediately write U of rho as PL of rho, where PL of rho is the Legendre polynomial. So substituting this in equation 20, we get Q of rho is equal to U of rho. So this is for m is equal to 0. If we want to find the solution for the general case, then we have to consider m not equal to 0 case. Therefore, putting m not equal to 0 in equation 19, Then by a similar analysis we did above, we find the equation 28 takes the form u of rho is equal to d power m divided by d rho power m into the Legendre polynomials PL of rho. While obtaining equation 28a, we get additional conditions on m and l, that is m can take only integer values and the value of l should be greater than or equal to the modulus of m value. Then equation 20 becomes q of rho is equal to 1 minus rho square to the power mod m by 2 into dm by d rho m of PL of rho, which is nothing but the associated Legendre polynomial, and therefore q of rho is nothing but the associated Legendre polynomial, which is the solution of our differential equation. The associated Legendre polynomials are written like PLM of rho as given in equation 29. Putting equation 29 in equation 20, we write the solution of the theta equation as theta of theta is equal to NLM PLM of cos theta, where NLM is the normalization constant whose value can be found using the orthonormal properties of the associated Legendre functions. For finding the orthonormal properties, we put x is equal to cos theta and write the normalization condition as integral minus 1 to 1 n l prime m prime pl prime m prime into nlm plm dx, which is equal to 1. So from the orthonormal properties of associated Legendre functions, we know the value of the integral from minus 1 to plus 1 pl prime m prime of x into pl m of x dx is equal to 2 by 2l plus 1 into l plus mod m divided by l minus mod m into del l prime del m prime. That is, if l is equal to l prime and m is equal to m prime, this value is non-zero, otherwise it is 0. Therefore, substituting the above value in the normalization condition, we get n l m square is equal to 2l plus 1 by 2 into l minus mod m by l plus mod m, and therefore nlm is equal to the value given here. Now we have solved the theta equation also. Therefore, by combining the solution of the phi equation and the theta equation, we write the normalized eigenfunctions, that is the wave functions for the rigid rotator problem, as psi of theta comma phi, which is equal to ylm of theta comma phi, which is equal to square root of 2l plus 1 divided by 4 pi into l minus mod m divided by l plus mod m into the associated Legendre functions plm of cos theta into e power im phi. In the equation 30, the function ylm of theta and phi is nothing but the spherical harmonic function. So we term it as a spherical harmonics because we obtain the solution in terms of spherical polar coordinates. So we give this name, and also we have the harmonic functions. That is why we call ylm of theta phi as spherical harmonics. So we come to the end of the lecture. So before shutting down, let us conclude that the eigenfunctions of the rigid rotator problem are these, and the eigenvalues are EL is equal to L into L plus 1 into cross h square divided by 2I. Thus, the problem is completely solved. I wish to say some additional information about the eigenfunctions of this rigid rotator. That is, the eigenfunctions are the eigenfunctions of L square operator, because we had in Hamiltonian the term L square by 2I. I is nothing but the moment of inertia, therefore only L square dominates. Therefore, we write this L square as Lx square plus Ly square plus Lz square. In this problem, we obtained the eigenfunctions of L square. Therefore, L square's eigenfunctions are known, and one can write the z component of the angular momentum as Lz, that is equal to IH cross dou by dou phi in terms of spherical polar coordinates. So one can easily check that L square and Lz, they commute with each other. Therefore, as a consequence, they have the same set of eigenfunctions. This is a known identity. Therefore, the spherical harmonics, which are the eigenfunctions of L square, can also be the eigenfunctions of the z component of the angular momentum. We write the eigenvalue equation of these two operators L square and Lz respectively as L square Ylm of theta phi, which is equal to L into L plus 1 cross h square into Ylm of theta phi, and Lz Ylm of theta phi is equal to mh cross Ylm of theta phi. These results will be useful later when we deal with the total angular momentum operators and spin angular momentum operators. Also, please remember that, by the way, we have half solved the hydrogen atom problem and another important problem of quantum mechanics, since the angular part of it has the same solutions we just obtained here. We take them for granted when we solve the hydrogen atom problem in a different video. For any queries, so you can always contact me at this email address. Thank you for listening and learning. I hope I will meet you in my next video. Good luck.